Walibi, Belgium is my favorite of the 3 Walibi parks throughout Europe. In my opinion, it takes the best of all worlds, with a comparable ride lineup to Walibi Holland and a great emphasis on family attractions like Walibi Rhone Alps. In this video, I want to express this ideology by discussing and ranking each of Walibi Belgium's 9 roller coasters. Starting off this list at number 9 is Fun Pilot. This Zero Force 190 model is by far the park's smallest roller coaster, but even so, it's not a bad ride by any stretch of the imagination. Zero Junior coasters are typically very smooth rides and have an acceptable size and layout, and Fun Pilot is no different. Plus, the ride has an eye-catching dark blue color scheme and an adorable train design with a little propeller on the front. Number 8, Vampire. Another Vekoma SLC. I know you were all sighing at this point. This is one of the originals that was built after the introduction of Condor at its sister park Walibi Holland. Unlike that ride, Vampire still has the bulky, old, over-the-shoulder restraints, which is a shame because I think this one could really benefit from vests. Maybe it's only because I rode this in the front row, but I didn't think this one was especially rough. It just suffers from the usual poor transitions. On the bright side though, Vampire has this really cool smoke effect right before the Sidewinder element that was actually a pretty cool touch to the overall ride experience. Combine that with maybe a future vest restraint update and this would not be the worst SLC. Number 7, Cobra. This is about as standard as a Vekoma boomerang can get. They didn't even bother to give it a nice paint scheme, it's just entirely white. Now Cobra wasn't any rougher than other boomerangs I'd ridden, but the more I ride these things, the more I just get tired of them. If you don't have vest restraints, a retrack, or cool theming to implement, I don't see the need to have a Vekoma boomerang in your park. Not to mention, Walibi Belgium already has 2 other shuttle coasters, so the forwards-backwards dynamic is additionally obsolete at this point. Number 6, Pulsar. The original mock Power Splash installation debuted in 2016 and is a very unique experience. It does take a bit to get to the exciting parts, but once you're there, the spikes are quite freaky, the airtime hill actually gives some good airtime, and the splashdown soaks you from head to toe. It's a fantastic option to cool you down on a hot summer day, and I actually feel bad for putting it so low on this list. I think it was a great addition to this park, and I'm excited to see it debut at Six Flags Over Texas next year and how Aquaman performs at that park. Number 5, Psyké Underground. This is probably one of the more unique launch coasters I've ridden, originally opening in 1982. Back then, the Schwarzkopf shuttle loop featured a flywheel launch just like Montezuma's Revenge at Knott's Berry Farm, or at least what it did feature before its big refurbishment. But many changes arose in this ride's future, arguably the most notable being in 1999 when the coaster was renamed Turbine. This came with the addition of the long tunnel enclosing the entirety of the ride's layout. This was done to reduce noise, but actually makes the ride experience all the more disorienting. Then in 2013, the flywheel launch was replaced with a new linear motor launch by Gerstlauer, which is a change that I know many weren't as big of a fan of. On the plus side, Psyké Underground would get some new theming upgrades which compensated with the loss of the unique flywheel technology. Personally, uniqueness isn't my only issue with the new version of this coaster, as you're now slowed down before climbing the backward spike. The loss of this element wouldn't have been much of an issue for me if the coaster wasn't already made up of like 3 elements. Psyké Underground had the potential to rank higher in this list, but it's just so dang short, which was my one big problem with it. But if you can look past that, there's still a lot to love about this fascinating indoor shuttle coaster. Number 4, Tiki-Waka. Arguably the best Gerstlauer bobsled coaster that I rode in Europe, was also one of the more recent installations to debut around the world. Opening in 2018 as a part of the park's new exotic area, Tiki-Waka is a glass smooth ride with a unique layout for a wild mouse. Much of the elements are really zippy and even give small pops of airtime. It also features one of the most legendary IMAscore soundtracks ever, really rounding out a great family coaster package. But it's still not my favorite family coaster in the park. That honor goes to number 3, Calamity Mine. Only a few Vekoma mine train coasters have been built so far, and this was the first I ever got to experience. Now many of you are probably familiar with Colorado Adventure at Fantasialand, which is most likely the best non-Disney mine train ever created. That ride too is a Vekoma mine train, so in a way, Calamity Mine is its sister coaster despite getting a fraction of the recognition. I don't think I'd ever heard anyone praise this coaster, but it really deserves it because this is another one of the best mine trains ever built. The theming of this ride is where the train travels in and around this canyon, pretty reminiscent to Thunder Mountain over at the Disney parks. Another similarity between the two is the inclusion of water effects like this one that I thought were really cool. It's also a nice long ride with 2 lift hills and plenty of quick drops and turns. Calamity Mine rounds out a truly fantastic of family-friendly coasters at this park, which in my opinion is what Walibi Holland could really use some work on. Number 2, Loup-Garou. For those of you who have seen my vlog from Walibi Belgium, I didn't seem to be the biggest fan of this ride. But the more time that's passed, the more I think I appreciate it. Sure, it has its rough moments, but the reason I don't mind as much is because the trains are incredibly cushioned and absorbed so much of the shakiness. Loup-Garou is one of 3 Vekoma wooden coasters that were ever built, and one of 2 still operating in the world. The only one that has since gone defunct is Robin Hood, Hood, the predecessor to Untamed at Walibi Holland, which is a truly masterful Rocky Mountain construction creation. I never heard terribly bad things about Robin Hood, and given that Loup-Garou is the sister coaster, I now understand why. It's not a bad coaster, it's just that an RMC conversion is the far superior option, and ultimately I think could fill in the park's only true gap, which is a lack of a strong second place coaster. Loup-Garou is fun and does have some airtime, but could you imagine what Walibi Belgium would look like with an Untamed style coaster? Only time will tell, but in its current form, I still think that Loup-Garou has its moments for sure. And coming in at number 1, of course, is Conda. Walibi Belgium's newest roller coaster opened to rave reviews last year, and I can definitely say it lives up to every single bit of the hype. This is easily one of the best mega coasters in the world, and the best way I describe it is like a modern version of Expedition G-Force at Holiday Park. While also a terrific coaster, G-Force doesn't have the variety of unique elements like Conda, which is why I think this coaster is actually even better. The layout is perfection with an immaculate first drop, many sustained ejector airtime hills, the world's only non-inverting Cobra roll, and a plethora of quick bunny hills making up the return leg. Not a single element on Conda did not deliver, which is why I admire this coaster so much. But it doesn't end there. Conda is also decked out with some impressive theming and architecture making up the station building, along with some of the coolest trains ever and its own original audio. Walibi Belgium went all in on this project and absolutely killed it. It isn't just the tallest, fastest, and longest coaster in the Benelux, it's a genuinely high quality coaster, and it lives up to all of its stats. So that's going to do it for my ranking video from this terrific Belgian amusement park. Let me know what you think of my list down in the comments and if there's anything you'd personally change. If you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you gave me a like and considered subscribing because there's plenty more content like this coming in the future. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you very soon. Bye guys.